Those who do partially get partial armor. So they do not have the Holy Spirit there because the Holy Spirit does not dwell in the temples of unrighteousness. But they do have a fill-in for them in angels. So angels are there to minister and to teach and to help them and lift them up and give them hope and to give them minimal protection against the fiery darts of the wicked that are there. And so externally they have an angel that is there to offer them some level of protection. They may not feel the flames, but they are being purified by the flames, and it's scary there. There's bad souls there. They want to devour you. You don't want to go to torment. It's not that time to tarry in the wilderness. It is time to prepare to tarry with God. And so these people are able to then get water baptized when they accept him. And when you get water baptized, guess what that does? Wash your robes white. You give yourself a good favorability status with God.
Because nothing impure enters the Father's kingdom.
That's it. They would have confessed with their mouth back to him in Abraham's bosom. They would have done all of these things. And so now they're ready to go from Abraham's bosom up to paradise. And guess who was there? 20,000 angels in chariots with Jesus Christ among them. Why angels? Because he hadn't ascended yet. He did not go from glory to glory yet. He did not have the wings on him yet. So he could not fly over and get them and save them at that time. The angels did that. The angels' wings brought them to him to bring them to the Father for healing, because they are going to be revived and restored. And so these people, they have to become wholly sanctified, and they have to go through water baptism, because when Jesus is talking to Nicodemus, he's saying nobody goes to heaven without baptism of water and spirit. That's the water and spirit baptism that Jesus is talking about, is when you get water baptized. You know, people can think that, well, I just need to believe to be born again because I was born from my mother's womb, and that's the water. And then when I just believe, that's the spirit. And so then I am baptized by the spirit and I am born again. That's not the way that God has revealed it here. In Matthew, he's telling Nicodemus, no, flesh is of the flesh, spirit is of the spirit. The birth that you've had from your mom, that is not satisfying the water and spirit objective that I'm saying. You need to be water baptized and go under water now, as at least a kid who has a mind who's developed to know who God is and so forth. You need to be baptized when you have choice, not as a baby. And you need to choose to be dunked. And then you have the Holy Spirit, as Jesus gave that example, and then the dove descended upon him. So this is the example that Jesus is saying we must follow. We must follow Christ. There's two rain events that happen. The first rain event is called the former rain. The latter event is called the latter rain. It's also known as the great rain. So rain is a code word. Rain means blessings of God given to you. Now there's levels of blessings of God. It can be something very simple in our days to the maximum blessing of rain given that we get to enter the final heaven. How great of a day that will be. And so after the atonement, when he descended, the people from Adam and Eve all the way up to that atonement did not have the ability to go to heaven. After the atonement, Paul started having the revelation hit him that people just then started to go to heaven after the atonement.
After the atonement.
First generation apostle proclaiming that God led him to know that. And then Jesus, he says that nobody has seen the Father except the one who has atoned and sacrificed and descended. Where's the Father in heaven? Nobody up until that atonement had been able to go to paradise. The best that they could do is go to Abraham's bosom out of the flames and tarry there with Abraham. These people that are following the Mosaic law and so forth are doing their best based on what they are told to do by their spiritual leaders, their prophet. And they are doing those things, but the best that they can do is get 6 of the 7 categories because they don't have the activated power of saving water baptism yet. Jesus had to bring that. The atonement bought that. They could not become wholly sanctified. They're not at the level that you need to get into the Father's presence. Not yet. So he allowed them to be people from Abraham's bosom and the book of remembrance, people waiting in torment temporarily. They were waiting for that atonement to be offered the chance to follow Christ, to finish out their complete holiness situation. And then they were ready to have the angels take them up. The first rain event, the former rain, Then Jesus comes up, and the first thing that he proclaimed publicly, he proclaimed it to his apostles and a few ladies, his followers, and then a group of 500. The first thing is he raises from the dead. If you believe me, be water baptized and be saved. That was important to him because he just activated baptism of water and spirit and fire. He activated the two books, the two paths to now finally go to heaven. They could not go to heaven without that atonement. You think, well, people before the atonement got water baptized. Weren't they saved and forgiven? They just were repenting. You can get saved to different levels, but it's not going to be a level of salvation that gets you to heaven. That's a different situation. The thief on the cross was day one because he didn't need to be revived very long. He had just recently passed. He was ready to go on day one. Hosea, thousands of years before the atonement, he described that him and his family ended up going to ascend to heaven on day 3. If you study the Old Testament, Hosea, you'll see that there. You know, some of them of his day were there a long time. And so 3 days after Christ's atonement, those 20,000 angels made several trips over several days to gather people. The thief just got there, so he was the first one up. The last one to die, first one to ascend. Hosea's time, first ones to die are the last ones to go up on the last day of day 3. So this leads us now to David. David lived at a time before Hosea, so he was also day 3. So Hosea and his family was, say, the morning of day 3, and then David was later. And we know David took the path of the book of remembrance. He did not take a book of life path. Why? Because I'm able to evaluate his walk.